haven't pre-ordered F1 2017 just yet, guys, don't forget to check out Simply Games for a brilliant price as well. Be top link down in the description, guys, and if you order through that link, you also help me out. Hello everyone, and welcome back, guys, to episode 2 of my F1 2017 Webber's Return Career Mode. And today we are here for the Chinese Grand Prix. And if you did miss out on the first episode, I would highly recommend going back and checking out, you know, sort of the whole sort of characteristics of this series are explained over there on that video, and it just needs, you know, so you're sort of more caught up, ready for the second round of the season. But here we are then for the Chinese Grand Prix. Not a particular track that I'm a fan of on any Formula 1 game, and it went alright, if I'm not mistaken, in my McLaren Honda career mode. If you are interested in seeing that as well, I would highly recommend going and checking that out. But it's not a track I feel particularly confident around. Obviously in this series I run 0 assists, so it's free practice was going to be quite a learning curve, guys. But obviously in this series I do not sort of try and feature that sort of thing. I like to leave it down to qualifying and the racing. So hopefully, you know, if you do prefer more of a sort of full style of video, then go and check out my McLaren Honda video series. The episodes are about twice as long as this one, so you know you just get a lot more features from the game. But here we are then at the end of free practice there, just showing how many R&D points I was able to bag, and it was around about 164 there, as you can see, taking me nicely over 860 points there, guys. But let's move on then into qualifying for the Chinese Grand Prix. Coming down towards the line though, and we're going to enable the DRS nice and early there. Up into 8th gear on the way down towards turn 1 here. Sort of just want to lift off as you get into the apex there, and then just cycling down through the gears. Try not to let the back end kick out too much, as around this first corner actually there is a lot of oversteer you can find from the back end there, but struggling to put the power down in 3rd gear there, having to snatch up into 4th quite early there, you know, just try and get the power down. We're already down into P10 overall, down into the next corner. They're braking at the 100 meter board, running a little bit deep. Unfortunately, I just didn't change down one too many gears there, and that left me with, you know, good acceleration on the exit there as we come through the S section now, running it basically on the rev limiter at 170 miles an hour there, you know, sort of felt that was a pretty decent speed there, so decided to keep it in that gear. You can just see at the back end starting to kick out on me ever so slightly there, and through the next couple of corners we are just outside the top 10 at the moment, so, you know, down into the next corner they're braking just as you see the proper curve there, and now through this long snaking section once more. The back end ever trying to step out on you as we come now down on towards this long back straight here, obviously cycling all the way up into 8th gear, and now you've sort of got a couple of seconds to try and relax, obviously deploying the DRS as well, pushing up over 200 miles an hour here, and they've just got to try and pinpoint the braking just between the 150 and 100 meter board there, down into 2nd gear, take quite a nice apex there on the exit of the corner, just trying to put the power down just as early as you possibly can. Down through into the final corner we go, taking a lot of curb on the exit there, pushing the track limits, and down towards the line it's going to be P9 at the end of one-shot quali there. So the team there not particularly happy with that result, but I felt this track doesn't particularly suit the Williams. As you can see there on the ordering, Lewis Hamilton did take pole position in the Chinese Grand Prix there, with Sebastian Vettel just behind him. The 2 Finns of Bottas and Raikkonen rounding out the 2nd row, and then you got the Red Bulls in row 3. Then we got Grosjean, Perez, myself and Nico Hülkenberg rounding out the top 10, guys.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and starting alongside in P2 is Sebastian Vettel. Looking down the rest of the grid we have Bottas, Raikkonen, Daniel Ricciardo and Verstappen, Grosjean, Perez, Williams and Nico Hülkenberg, Stroll, Magnussen, Carlos Sainz and Kvyat, Ocon, Palmer, Fernando Alonso and Stoffel van Dorn, Wehrlein and Marcus Ericsson rounds off the grid.
So here we are then, guys, on the grid, ready for the Chinese Grand Prix, and it's going to be a nice textbook one-stop race here, but I'm going to run quite a bit of extra fuel here for this race. Going to mean the car is very heavy at the start of the race. But on the grid then, ready for the Chinese Grand Prix. It is 5 lights, and we are ready to kick this race off. It is lights out, and away we go, and off to once more a very wheel spinny start, then almost losing the back end into Hülkenberg there alongside me, but down in towards turn 1. Just going to try and brake as late as possible there. Watch for Hülkenberg on my inside, but we're going to go down the inside of Verstappen there. Bottas has been caught out on the outside there and has ended up nearly facing the wrong direction there, and that's left the top 6 with a little bit of a breakaway now, as everyone else did end up getting caught up behind that instant there. Not really too sure what happened to Bottas. I think he just got caught out wide on the grass there as we come now down in towards turn 4 here, just kissing the back end of Sergio Perez there as we go through the hairpin corner. And now up towards the S section there on lap 1. Not too sure how much grip you're going to be able to find in the dirty air there as we come through the next 2 corners. Still right on the back of Sergio Perez there, trying to attack the curbs as much as we possibly can. You know, try and get the car turned in, just so you know the reduced downforce doesn't have as strong an effect, guys. But now moving on to lap 2, and Valtteri Bottas already in that much quicker Mercedes is all over my gearbox straight away here as we come through the S section here. Sergio Perez just ahead of me here, running a little bit wide through the corner there, and that's meant he's not exactly got off to a perfect run there, but we need to watch out for Valtteri Bottas just behind me here. But Daniel Ricciardo further up the road there, pulling off to the wayside. He's got a lot of issues now with the engine, I think that is, but we're still trying to look down the inside of Sergio Perez into the hairpin here. Going to brake as late as we possibly dare, locking up both front wheels there, and Sergio Perez going to go for the undercut on me down in towards the final corner here. We're going to have the inside line. They're going to try and squeeze him out wide through the corner, and yes, we do. We do hold on to P4 for the moment, but we got more news. Sergio Perez has now got issues, as well as his yellow flags out, because Kevin Magnussen has retired from the Grand Prix there, guys. So that is 3 retirements, well, 3 issues, sorry, in 2 corners in the Chinese Grand Prix there. So quite a lot of excitement, quite a lot of reliability questions going on as well there, guys. Only 1 retirement so far, and that was Kevin Magnussen there. So Sergio Perez and Daniel Ricciardo there, both with issues at the moment, but now skipping on to lap 5, and we're now under pressure from Valtteri Bottas just behind me here, struggling to keep the back end in line, still with quite a lot of fuel on this car. But through the S section, we do actually get quite a nice run there through that corner, so we might have a little bit to defend against Valtteri Bottas here, but you know, not really going to try and do too much when it comes to defending. He's got a much quicker car than myself, so all we'll end up doing is costing myself time here. Bottas goes down the inside. We're just going to brake as late as possible, but Bottas locks up and runs back into the side of me there. Somehow, you know, he's been able to come out of that completely unscathed there, but a little bit annoying, you know. The Bottas, I sort of felt he made a mistake and was able to capitalise it there, as I would have liked to, you know, continue trying to attack him as we run wide through the final corner. Hamilton now has dived down into the pit lane onto a set of these soft tyres there to try and take himself through to the end of this Grand Prix. But, you know, we're still trying to push on to try and keep up with Valtteri Bottas here, get right up behind him through turn 1 there, but now skipping on to the end of the lap, and we've now got Max Verstappen even trying to pile on the pressure here, but Bottas going to dive into the pit lane. I'm going to do the same there, but Verstappen opts to keep the car out for 1 more lap. We lock up the front inside wheel there as we come into the pit lane, getting a touch on the grass there. A huge tank slapper as we try and break the car down into the pit lane there, and somehow keeping it facing the right direction there. It's lost us a little bit of time, but shouldn't really cost me too much in the long run, guys. We're now building up the revs, ready to get released from the pit box there. We've managed to get out of that with a fairly good pit stop, so not really complaining about that as we're now leaving the pit lane here. And we're going to come out just out ahead of Stoffel Van Dorn in the McLaren Honda there. So nice to know that we won't have to tackle the back markers this early on in the Grand Prix, as once more you see the back end ever so slightly sliding away on this cold set of tyres, guys. You can see coming through the end of that S section there. We're still holding on quite nicely at the moment, and now skipping on to the end of lap 7 here. And this is going to be the moment of truth. We've got Pascal Wehrlein just ahead of me there, diving into the pit lane, as once more the back end always trying to break away from me here, and there's a couple more cars down in the pit lane here, but Max Verstappen there, you can see exiting the pits, has just been able to get out ahead of me there, and that is definitely not what I wanted in this Grand Prix. Max Verstappen able to undercut me there as we get right on his gearbox there through a turn once more, but it looks like Max Verstappen there has unfortunately been able to overcut me in this Grand Prix there. Not exactly what I needed there, and it will cost me potentially 2 vital points overall in the standings. You can see moving on to lap 11 now, and Verstappen able to, you know, sort of gap me just a little bit there. Not exactly what I wanted, but on to lap 14 now, and Romain Grosjean has actually been closing me in at quite a rate in the later stages of this Grand Prix. The Haas car was looking very, very handy around this circuit as we move on to the final lap of the Grand Prix. Now, if I make a mistake, he is within touching distance to try and pounce on me on this final lap of the race, and down now in towards the final sector of the race. Just trying to focus on my braking points here, but the Haas is really starting to close in there as you run a little bit wide over the curbs through the next corner. They're having to lift out of the throttle there, and that will give Romain Grosjean the golden opportunity to try and have a look down my inside in towards the second to last corner here. Raikkonen has already now won this Chinese Grand Prix there, but we got Grosjean who goes straight down my inside there in the Haas car. We're going to squeeze him to the inside there, brake as late as we possibly dare, go right around his outside in towards the second to last corner there, and unfortunately for, you know, Romain Grosjean, he wasn't able to capitalise as well as he would have liked there. But through the final corner there, we are going to finish P6 in the Chinese Grand Prix there, and that's still a pretty solid result based on our quali position.
Good finish. You stepped up and achieved what we asked. Good job.
So still happy then, guys, with the end of that Grand Prix there, but Ferrari able to take home a 1-2 finish in the second race of the season there. So well done to those guys, able to undercut Lewis Hamilton, if I'm not mistaken, earlier on in the Grand Prix there. But Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas come P3 and P4. They'll feel a little bit robbed that the Ferraris were able to get ahead in that Grand Prix. Verstappen comes in P5, myself up in P6 there, with my teammate Stroll actually able to make a few small gains during that Grand Prix as well, getting himself up into P9 overall in that race, and 2 more solid points on the board for Lance. You know, he's doing a very, very good job at this moment in time. But just have a look, Carlos Sainz able to round out the points there, just ahead of his teammate Danny Kvyat there, who will be a little bit gutted that unfortunately in the end he wasn't able to get up into the points there. But just have a look further down, Daniel Ricciardo P16 in the end after all those engine issues for him. Kevin Magnussen there, the only driver to actually retire from that Grand Prix. But we are still at P4 overall in the driver's standings, 2 points clear of Max Verstappen there, and we've got Valtteri Bottas all the way down in P6 at this moment in time, guys. But hopefully, you know, you guys have enjoyed this video. Do not forget to subscribe if you're new around here and you want to watch more of my F1 2017 Webber's Return Career Mode guide as well. Don't forget to check out my F1 2017 McLaren Honda series, as well as any of that random one-off videos that I do make, guys. But thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time for the Bahrain Grand Prix.